So what is Land Before the War? It is a mobile game available on both iOS and Android. You battle using one champion and 5 Valerians against an opposing team. Let's look at some of the options. So the first thing to look at is the champions. Depending on whether you picked Conqueror or Hero, you'll be assigned one of the 2 starting champions, either Marcus or Elena. There are 3 other champions currently released which you can unlock. If you buy and complete the Game Pass, you unlock Codebreaker, along with many other benefits including the possibility to digitalize Valerians. You can buy through the shop in-game. You have Favian, who was given to those who took part in the pre-shard campaign. Then finally you have Grail, who is available as part of booster pack purchases, which is available in the shop. So first of all, slot one of them in. Then you need to look at your Valerian team composition. Now we'll start with support, which are your healers. Most teams run with 2 or maybe more healers, so you're looking really at Poptoid being the main healer of most teams, though most combinations of anything really works here, so Pegasi, Spike, Crispy, Nocturnix all work well, so that's 2 or 3 of your slots already taken. You are then looking up somewhere between 2 and 3 DPS, so I like to split my magic damage and physical damage. So Kuko is probably the most common and most run magical attacker. It hits very hard. Then you can pick from whatever cards and levels you have. It's nice to have some type diversity. You also need something to stand in the front line, so physical DPS, tank class and even healers, especially a Poptoid, takes hits well. Experiment with what fits you. Do you want a sustain team, a strong AoE team, a strong single target team? So now you've picked your starting team, where do you go next? Ensure you have a chest in the process of opening and then start with story mode. Story mode is PvE and you start against low levels, so you can start to learn the controls. You swipe to use a card. Once your ultimate meter is full, your circle will start flashing and you can click your Valerian to use it. This starts helping you get gold. You need to complete 3 or 4 story levels to unlock the dungeon mode. So once you've done 3 stories, then you can move on to starting the low-level dungeons. On weekdays there's 1 specific dungeon open per day, and on the weekend you have your pick of any dungeon. This is a great way to get your first Valerians ascended. You can get rewards twice per day. If you lose, it doesn't take up a try, so try and push yourself to a higher level. Then you can move on to battle modes to earn the chests. So the battle mode, especially when you first start, you might find you come across some stronger players. Hopefully you have some bots eventually to play. Once you've opened a few chests over the first couple of days, you will start getting some level 3 or 4 Valerians and hopefully then become more competitive. The higher elo rate you have, the better the rewards for the chests, so it's a good thing to move up because you'll get more cards per chest. Obviously pop in and open the chest as and when they're available on the left hand side. The main part of the Valerian Play to Airdrop campaign is through the Shard campaign on the Valerian website. Other campaigns are likely to be via Zai, Mochaverse and maybe Telegram. Ensure you connect using the same wallet and details as in-game. Here you accrue shards every minute, every second. When you first start, your bar will be relatively short, so you'll need to claim frequently. As you go through the process, you can get up to half a day quite easily. Near the top you can press the claim button and it'll add them to your pot. You also have the option to double, which you pay a small amount of Ethereum to do so. You can put in a creator ID in. Not sure where I can get that from. Please Valeria, would you be able to give me one? Every day you can claim up to 10 shiny Kukos. Click on this free mint button 10 times and now they appear in your non-custodial wallet. Then have your rank you can see here. The Play to Airdrop campaign isn't based on how many shards you have at the end. Instead it's based on what your shard rate is. So there's no incentive to save your shards, so spend them as soon as you have chance to upgrade. You want to spend the shards on your artifacts. The artifacts increase your yield of shards. I would just start upgrading the cheapest ones. Review the locked artifacts to see the prerequisites, as it may change your priorities on which order to level them up. You then have emblems. Emblems are really in-game achievements that increase your shard rates and multipliers. So you get them for the levels of your Valerians, the number of different times you pay a certain type, which is incentivizing players to try different ones. Levels of dungeons. The number of chests. The number of PvP battles won. The number of PvP battles. It really does reward all aspects of gameplay. If it isn't updated, then click the ref. Also we have the Valeria marketplace. So we have the Valerian land NFTs, which were minted around 3 years ago. Each land will give a VLOV token on TGE and then ongoing, then depending on the game's development the emissions will follow. There are 2,500 upgraded lands, These have a slightly different visual appearance and they will likely receive around 2,000 more tokens on TGE and more over the years. Lands will also yield booster packs, so historically we've had booster packs drop to landowners. These will continue to do so going forward. We have champions which help to boost the rarity, so the more likely of shiny cards in your booster packs. There are a number of different other NFTs. We have those linked to the TCG, which will be a second game, but there is already a physical TCG, where the Founders Pack sold out in seconds. You'll also be able to buy cards and booster packs for the mobile Valeria before the war game in the very near future. There is also a merch store, where you can buy some more TCG packs, with 2 starter decks available. The Voltra hoodie is still available in most sizes, and also my personal favorite, the Kuko plushie. There will also be a Val to Gem swap rolled out in the near future. Healing items: we have Potion and Potion All. This instantly heals Valerians. It creates a green spiral around them with the healed value appearing in green above its head. There is Heal and Heal All. This instead doesn't deal instant healing, instead it's a heal over time that ticks at the start of each Valerian's turn. It has a similar green spiral, but the difference is that it adds a pink plus into the status bar of that Valerian. We then have Shield and Group Shield. This adds a gray shield to your Valerian's health bar. A yellow sphere of light appears around the Valerian and a purple winged shield appears in the status bar. Most of the stronger teams run on average of 2 or maybe 3 healers, so these items aren't used very much, in favor of some of the other items. Let's have a look at the damage over time items and statuses. We'll start with Poison Dart and Poison Strike. You poison Valerians causing damage over time. A green toxic logo appears underfoot and a green vial appears as a status icon. It's the only dot that stacks. The Twiggy line also causes poison on its own attacks, and its ultimate causes its teammates a chance to poison when they attack with their normal skill. It's very strong, especially in the PvE world. It's a requirement in survival mode, and it's also very strong in the higher level dungeons as it helps stick down their large health bars. Then we have Burn and Burn All. The burn causes damage over time, and the biggest benefit is that it also reduces healing received by 50%. You can tell it's been used because flames lick around the Valerian and a yellow fireball appears in the status bar. The Dots line has a chance to burn on hit. Similarly, the Kuka line burns on crit, which is strong due to its high crit ratio. Be careful when you are coming up against Marcus, who's one of the 2 starting champions, as he causes his team to be immune to burn. Finally, Bleed and Bleed All cause Valerians to bleed. It creates a red heart underfoot and a red drop of blood appears in the status bar. The legendaries Shrapnel and Griffin can cause bleed. The biggest beneficiary of this is the Jitters line, who can also cause bleed but also hits any opponents afflicted by bleed twice. So it can create very strong combos. Similarly, Elena, the other starting champion, creates bleed immunity. With healing being the meta at the moment, having burn is probably the go-to of the 3, but I think you can run 3, 4 or 5 of these in a deck. When you match up, check for Elena or Marku, so not to waste items if the opposing teams is immune. Note it doesn't seem to matter in PvE. If you just start in the game, I recommend picking the hero class because Marcus is useful in almost all circumstances, whereas Elena immunity isn't quite as strong. All the damage over time ticks at the start of that Valerian's turn, so if they're taking more turns, that's more ticks. Crowd control is one of the key items within the battle system. Freeze and Freeze All. It encases the Valerian in a block of ice and creates a snowflake in the status bar. Ponzi can cause freeze with its ultimate along with the legendary Ajagon. Freeze breaks on contact and has no other effect. Sleep and Sleep All. This puts the Valerians to sleep. You can see some Z's appear around them and a moon symbol appears in the status bar. No Valerians cause sleep. Sleep is generally again awoken on contact, but the main benefit it has over freeze is that sleeping enemies take an additional 50% of damage. Hiberon does sleep, but it doesn't apply these effects. Paralysis and Paralyze All. This causes streaks of lightning to appear around the Valerian and a blue lightning bolt appears as a status. The Voltail line can cause paralysis both by receiving damage and also by attacking. The legendary Obsidian also causes paralysis on hit. Paralysis is less likely to break than both Sleep and Freeze, as it has a 50% chance to awaken on contact. Finally, we have Petrify and Petrify All, which is the status that turns the Valerians to stone with a stone appearing beneath their feet as a status. Petrified Valerians are completely immune to breaking on receiving damage. However, they take 50% reduced damage. Dardanos can cause petrification. The four main crowd control statuses all have benefits and weaknesses. With all items, ensure that you are sending them. Sleep is the only status here that increases the damage that a Valerian takes, so you can use this as an attacking move as well as a crowd control move. Petrify is good for Valerians that you want to lock down, whether that's the opposing healer or their strongest damaging Valerian. Also be aware, obviously from a defensive point of view, if you have a Valerian petrified they will take 50% less damage, so you may wish to hold off if you're looking at purifying, as it may be left until just before its turn, because it will take less damage up until that point. I think most teams will run a number of these items, we're probably looking at 4 to 5 of these, maybe more. My preference really is against freeze, and for the other 3 my go-to, as freeze being a slightly weaker to the fact it isn't having the benefit. We then have team buffs and debuffs. There are 2 speed control effects. Accelerate increases the speed stat of your Valerians. It creates single blue up arrows and then a single yellow arrow pointing northwest as a status. The Noctowl line can also causes accelerate status, but it is separate speed up to the item. Decelerate slows the opponent, the opposite visual to accelerate. It shows blue down arrows around the Valerian and an hourglass as a symbol of status. Both Scout and Iggy lines can cause slow, but stacks with the item card. Assault attack boost your team's attack. It is indicated by pairs of blue upwards arrows wrapping around the Valerians and a trio of southwest pink pillars show as it stacks, so keep an eye out as to the number of stacks on your opponents. The Marshmallow line causes a similar boost, but again, it stacks. Life Surge is a stackable boost to health. Who doesn't like more health? Pink hearts engulf your Valerians and a pink heart appears underneath as a status. I think speed control is one of the key items and they are ran by most top teams. The single target items can be left out, as the all items aren't very costly. Both Life Surge and Assault Attack are options. Especially Assault Attack is run by the top team. Now the rest of the items. Invincible is the ultimate protective play which makes the Valerian invincible for 2 turns. A star of fire appears beneath the toes of the Valerian and an orange ring with a ruby inlay appears as an icon to show the Valerian is immortal. You can still be crowd controlled when invincible. Stealth hides your Valerian from attack. Think Harry Potter's invisibility cloak or Frodo slipping on the One Ring. The Valerian turns transparent, becomes untargetable and a cloak icon appears as a status. Be careful if stealthing a Valerian in the front, as it means the enemy can attack your second line directly. Stealth is more of a mid to late battle item. If you have 1 DPS and 2 helpers, consider stealthing the DPS, or vice versa. Stealth Valerians can't be hit by an opponent's single target items, but items that target all can. Mirror on the wall, who is the fairest of them all? Well, mirror blockens the next hit of damage or 2 at the top stage. It creates a blue mirror image of the Valerian either side, surrounded by yellow energy, with a red mirror icon appearing as a status. Most teams should try and find room for 1 or 2 of these. They are all quite costly, but they can turn the tide of battle. We have gone through a lot of statuses, how can I remove them? Well, Purify and Purify All is the go-to here. This is a necessity, this cleanses any negative status from your Valerians. Run both Purify and Purify All. A 6-pointed star appears underfoot and a yellow flare rises into the air. It removes all negative statuses from the bar. There are only a couple of Purify cards, so don't use them too early. Sylvanas can cast a proxy effect on its single target heal. The Resurrection card brings a Valerian back to life, with a small amount of health. You'll see a once knocked out Valerian come back to life, a cross with wings flash overhead. I'd always run Resurrection, as a well-timed Resurrection ultimate can be amazingly strong. Consider upgrading this and Purify All, as both can have their cast cost reduced. Finally, we have Confusion. Do not under any circumstances run Confusion, it provides very little benefit. It causes a Valerian to maybe attack other targets, but never its own team or itself. Question marks appear around the Valerian and a trio appears.